Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Byington, and this is part two of my William Blake video. In part one, I cover the two poems, The Lamb in contrast to the tiger. And that video also has a brief little biography about William Blake and his artwork. Here we're picking up with the two Chimney Sweeper poems. So the first Chimney Sweeper poem is from Songs of Innocence. So this being from Songs of Innocence ends in a very positive light. So we start out with a sad, dark setting. When my mother died, I was very young, and my father sold me while yet my tongue could scarcely cry, weep, 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 weep. So your chimneys I sweep, and in soot I sleep. So you know what's going on here. You can understand the context because of the title of the poem. So this is a speaker who is a chimney sweeper, and we also understand that they are quite young. So we kind of get the bit of youth from their inability to fully pronounce the word sweep. So you have these apostrophes here indicating the dropping of a letter. So we have weep, weep, weep. We've got a couple things going on with that. It is like weep, like to weep and cry. It is a sad situation. This is child labor. We're talking about a time before childhood was a thing, and there weren't laws to prevent this. There wasn't exactly a middle class. So if you're growing up as a child in the lower class, you would have been working pretty soon from not long after you could walk and talk. So the other thing about the weep, 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 there are social work or public health or speech pathology, all of the above sorts of studies and articles where you can find that that inability to pronounce some phonemes, some sounds, especially those that we make at the front of our mouth or near the front of our mouth, like the S. So the tongue is there at the right behind your teeth, near the roof of your mouth. When you say the S, sounds as sweep, as opposed to a letter like G or K, which you make in the back of your mouth. So those some of those sounds, especially when they start a word, the inability to get those out or pronounce them can sometimes mean a sign of child abuse. In this case, it's probably the trauma of, well, his mother died, and his father either doesn't want him or probably just can't afford to keep the child. Maybe there are also other children. So that it's indicative of what the speaker is going through. So there's little Tom Dacker, who cried when his head, that curled like a lamb's back, was shaved. So I said, hush, Tom, never mind it, for when your head's bare, you know that the soot cannot spoil your white hair. So when they're cleaning these chimneys, imagine what someone cleaning a chimney in this time would look like. They're gonna the child is going to have dirty clothes. They're going to have the black soot stains all over their skin. And if they did have light colored hair, surely it would stain that light white hair that's described right here. You also have a sort of allusion to the lamb right here in that second line of the second stanza. So Tom's hair used to be like it represented a version of him that was innocent, like the lamb. But for whatever reason, just like our speaker, he's ended up in this situation where he has to perform child labor. This is, you might think of this perhaps along the lines of trafficking as well. It's like someone who owns like this chimney sweeping business and has bought these children, bought off the children, paying for the parents to have them do the manual labor. And that person is probably also, the elite owner of many different types of businesses. So whatever happened to the speaker seems to have also happened to Tom. The innocence has been shaved off his head. And so Tom, he was quiet, and that very night, as Tom was sleeping, he had such a sight that thousands of sweepers, Dick, Joe, Ned, and Jack, were all of them locked up in coffins of black. And by came an angel who had a bright key, and he opened the coffins and set them all free. Then down a green plain, leaping, laughing, they run and wash in a river and shine in the sun. Then, naked and white, all their bags left behind, they rise upon clouds and sport in the wind. And the angel told Tom if he'd be a good boy, he'd have God for his father and never want joy. So now we went from the dark situation, the reality the speaker lives in, and there is a dream that the boy has in which he learns, oh, well, when I die, as long as I'm a faithful religious person and I'm a good moral person, I can go to heaven. And all of this hard work that I'm doing, as long as it's honest work, I'll have a father again, even though my father on earth sold me and didn't want me. So there is a promise. The innocence here is kind of overshadowing the dark situation of the chimney sweeper. And so the promise of the religious afterlife is there to make the really terrible reality seem not too bad. In the version in which we have experience as the factor, experience outweighing the innocence. We don't have an angel with a bright key. There isn't really a positive ending at all. So a little black thing among the snow crying, weep, weep in notes of woe. Now that would be a vision that we think, a sight, I should say, in which Blake would have seen this in London. It would have been a common thing for them to stand, the boys, 7 or 8 years old, standing on the corners crying, weep, weep, weep. They're advertising their services because they're probably going to be beaten or starved by the person their father sold them to, as mentioned in the first stanza in The Chimney Sweeper from Songs of Innocence, if they aren't out there doing that because they need to work, they need to make money to give it to their owner. Where are thy father and mother? Say, they are both gone up to the church to pray. Because I was happy upon the heath and smiled among the winter snow that clothed me in the clothes of death and taught me to sing the notes of woe. So the father and the mother. So similarly, like in the other poem that I said in this child labor of the time of Blake's time and on through the Victorian age too, you'll see the parents have put the child to work. And so we have the child dressed in the chimney sweeping attire, the clothes of death, because also it wasn't just that the child had to go out and try to help make money for the family, or they were orphaned or given away by a parent into the industry. It was a very dangerous job. I mean, can you imagine, crawling like 20, 30 feet up and down the chimney and being 7 or 8 years old? They would have had kind of rope and pulley systems to do it, but if something goes wrong and the child falls, the medicine and hospitals and surgery and all that is not what it is now, of course. So the likelihood of fatalities from falling or falling off the roofs to get to the chimney up top, also breathing that in, very similar situation to like black lung, like coal miners experience. So what he's wearing to be a chimney sweeper, the sort of uniform, as you might think of it, it's the clothes of death. And the that weep weep, the advertising that he's calling out on the corner, those are the notes of woe. And because I am happy and dance and sing, they think that they think they have done me no injury and are gone to praise God and his priest and king who make up a heaven of our misery. That's an entirely different ending about the religious and spiritual views going on from the chimney sweeper between innocence and experience. So the child doesn't let the parents know or is hiding how they are feeling about this. The child doesn't have that innocence anymore, the belief of a religious afterlife. They are saying that they see through it. They maybe respectfully or politely or hiding it from the parents. They think they have done me no injury because I am happy and dance and sing. But also the commentary on religion here is that the child is saying the priest and the king make up a heaven of our misery because he's being told if he's a good boy, he'll go to heaven and have another father in that first chimney sweeper poem. But here it's not, it's not about the bright angel making the promise. The people making the promise are the priest and the king. And there was a lot of corruption in the clergy, just like there are matters about that come up today. And the fact that the king is saying it, sometimes whoever is the ruling monarch might not be sane, and they might make decisions based on their best interest and not because they are spiritually or religiously good or beneficial to the people. So he's saying the priest and the king are lying to the people. So that's it for the two chimney sweeper poems in this video. Thank you.